And the one thing that this industry does not do that is so powerful for all of us is learner to self, because we need to ask them what's important to them. We never ask the drivers. We never ask. We never go on a call and say, what was the best part of your day? We don't ask. We just talk and we don't listen. Hello, and welcome to Carrier Code, your inside track to the strategies, stories, and leaders driving the trucking industry forward. Today's episode is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL Ticket Defense for Professional Drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. I'm Christy Choice, here with my co-host, Rocco Morari. How are we today, Rocco?
Christy, we're doing well. It's a wonderful day again. You know, we have a lot to talk about. But, I do want to start off letting all the listeners know, due to some unforeseen circumstances, Justin is taking a hiatus right now. He is still cheering us on. Still going to be, involved, but right now he's going to be taking a little hiatus from the show. So we want to wish him well, and we're looking forward to our continued friendship and communication and everything that, going forward brings with us.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think we said it in one of our premiere episodes, but Justin, he's kind of the glue that keeps us stuck together. And so, although we know things happen, we are just, moving forward. I think that was his main desire for us. But yeah, we got to do what we got to do. And so Carrier Code podcast is moving forward. And today's episode, we get to talk to someone Justin connected us with, in Dr. Gina Anderson from Luma Brighter Learning. And so we're going to have a really, really great discussion. But, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, because at the time of this taping, we're preparing to go places, and we are going to be some traveling folks within the next few weeks. So if you will be at ATA's MC&E, you'll find us there. If you will be in North Carolina at the Council's Conference, you'll see me there. If you will be in Dallas, Texas, early next week for 10 Streets Roadshow or Private Fleet Summit, I will be there. I'm doing a few back-to-backs, and so I'll be everywhere. So follow us on LinkedIn. But Rocco, where will you be? That's the question.
Oh, goodness. I am going to be next week in Midland, Odessa, Texas at the PBIOS. And then from there, we're going right to MC&E, which, as we know, is the Super Bowl of all the shows. So we're excited for that. Hopefully we can run into a lot of, listeners there and chat and talk about, things that they want to hear coming up. So, we've gotten a lot of feedback via email of episodes of people, asking questions and wanting to really spread the word and share with us on, what they want to hear. So that's really exciting news.
It is exciting. It is so exciting. So out there, if you have questions about Carrier Code Podcast or want to engage with us, remember that you can go follow us on socials at Carrier Code Podcast. You could also send us an email. Just email knowthecode@carriercodepodcast.com. Well, Rocco and I are super duper excited about today's topic. We are talking all about training, and training really touches our lives every single day. You're probably listening to Carrier Code Podcast because you want to learn a little something, right? And so, Rocco, what do you want to say about today's wonderful episode?
Christy, I'm so excited for this episode and looking forward to, the days are getting darker and we're looking to brighten them up. We have Dr. Gina Anderson here today, and she's going to really just bring the light, everything on how it can brighten our days and integrate learning in our day to day. And, with that, I'm just so excited to have Dr. Gina here. So I want to introduce her here to everybody. Dr. Gina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Luma and what you're doing within the industry?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, both of you, for having me on your podcast today. You're both right. I mean, we need learning more now than we've ever needed before. We're in a time in our lives where we're probably the most disconnected, but we're the most connected because of technology. So there's this interesting paradox that we can share about learning to help connect us and change our lives. So Luma Brighter Learning, we're actually a learning product and platform in the transportation and logistics space. And really what makes Luma unique is we have a connected learning platform. Most people think of learning and they think of education as content. But I know
the content doesn't change lives alone. And so that's really what we do. And I bring the science. I'm a learning scientist, so I spent my career studying the brain and how we learn. And I really love sharing the education behind it because the technology alone doesn't change the behaviors. It's about building that learning community and connecting us in meaningful ways that can drive the industry forward.
Oh, I love that you said that, Dr. Gina, because I think you're right. People are looking for something deeper, but we often don't know how to go about finding it and really like incorporating it into our day-to-day lives. So let's dig a little deeper into that and tell us a little bit more about your studies and what you find works.
Yeah, well, most definitely. It's interesting. Last week, I was at the National Tank Carriers event, and I was doing a talk, and I actually asked for those people that actually went to a session. It was on day 2, and I said, "What do you remember?" And I asked them to come to the front and tell me, like, what did you remember from the chemical presentation? And we put them on the spot because there was like 5 people in the room that actually listened to the presentation. Rocco, I don't know if you were in my presentation, but somebody came up and they put him on the spot because he was there. He was the chair. He was like leading the presentation, and they asked him, "What do you remember?" He actually recalled something from a different meeting. It wasn't
It
even the
was
chemical tank meeting. And so it was like just reinforcing the science behind how humans
right.
learn and how we all learn. And with neurodivergence, it even becomes even more different and differentiated. But here's the thing: most people, after they listen to this podcast, will forget most of what they've heard, almost half, in fact. And that's on average. And then every hour beyond that, you lose anywhere between, and there's some debate on the percentages. It doesn't matter. I could say 20, 22, 28, but you lose a bit every day after. But here's the thing in trucking, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, is that we disseminate information in passive ways, whether it's like be safe in a parking lot, or we put them in a classroom for 4 days. But guess what? They're not going to remember most of that. And so there actually is learning science principles to help people get information to stick so that it makes an impact in their life. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Oh,
So, Dr. Gina, do you see any difference in the older driver colony versus the younger colony and how the acceptance and the learning with this type of platform?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I've been studying the different generations of brains from all the way from 11-year-old all the way up until adulthood. And the difference is the gray and white matter between different ages of brains. Obviously, as you age, it changes. There's structure, the cerebral fluid in your brain, and also the gray and white matter. And so it's interesting when you start studying this and the impact that technology has had on our brains. And it's the first time in the history of learning science when we're looking at different functionality and ability where we're seeing different performance levels of younger generations. And you're talking about older generations in terms of adoption of technology. Here's the thing: it has to be meaningful. Let me give you an example. So there's other providers in the industry that will send out generic content, like let's say, for example, be safe in a parking lot. Well, everyone knows to be safe in a parking lot, people. We all do, right? But that's the reality. But the older generation, what if you could send them the actual parking lot that they're going to go to and see it? Now, that's meaningful, that's relevant, that's impactful. You want to use the technology and connection to change us. And in fact, Rocco, I did a research study in 2023 and I asked, and these are older drivers, these are younger drivers, these are all ages, really what do they want to learn, and what did they say? And I said this at the beginning of year when I talked at the North Carolina Trucking Association. It was depression. It's these health and wellness topics that we're all craving. We all have unspoken hurdles and invisible things that we're going through in our lives. Like we talked about when we first got on, I would have no idea what you were going through today. I would have no idea what Chrissy's day. And the adult learners, no matter their age, they want to be heard and connected. So when you can bring a platform that like allows them to have these type of experiences, it changes them. And it matters because that's what we want to do. We want to create learning that sticks and that changes people's lives. And so that's why I'm in this industry, because we're in an industry where people are majority disconnected. They're out on the road, and it's not just impacting drivers, it's impacting everybody.
And to circle back on that, Dr. Gina, how would you approach a carrier who they still have that old school mentality? This is the way we've always done it. This is the way it's worked. How do you bring them and bridge that gap to show them the new way of technology and how that can make their company a better company all around and make their employees happier?
Right. So I was just recently at a company in Pennsylvania and I went and observed their orientation. And they had this PowerPoint. You guys can imagine the first slide of the PowerPoint was, look at all the accidents we had last year. And it was a one slide PowerPoint and it's just a bunch of numbers, just like a ton of numbers. And I asked them, I mean, this is just one example, but I asked them, the one thing that helps people, your attention within a fraction of a second starts to wander. Now, that presentation was 4 hours long. And here's the thing, we know they're not going to remember most of that,
Right.
but when you ask them, did that create emotional resonance? What's a different way of presenting that information to create emotional resonance? Why not have a driver come in whether it's taped or whether it's live or whether it's video cam that has been impacted by a crash in their life, who was in a crash, who experienced that? Emotional resonance is one of the main instructional and scientific principles. Think about something, everyone who's listening, think about something you've never forgotten in your life. And you think about that educational experience and you bring people to that place. It was because of one of several things. It could have been emotional resonance. It created such a strong neural synapse that you never forget it, like 9/11. We'll never forget that,
Yeah,
right? It created
sure.
such a strong emotional resonance in your life. It could be positive, it could be negative. It could be like you won the marathon on the Boston Marathon or, whatever that is. Or you have to associate it. Maybe that wouldn't create emotional resonance for someone. So it's working with fleets to give examples of how to actually implement it. And I say, look, if it doesn't work, go back to use your boring PowerPoint. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, you've been doing it for all this time.
Right.
Why change? Why not just try one thing? I have another example. I had a fleet who on three days they were doing, at the last session before the drivers left, they were doing a payroll session. And I'll tell you, this payroll manager was like telling me, Gina, I look in their eyes and I know they're listening to me. So I have to go and bring them in person and say this. Do you know what their number one question is in orientation at that organization?
When am I getting paid?
Tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They want to know all about their paycheck.
Yeah.
It's like the last day before they leave. It's the last day before they leave to go to dinner for the night. So here's what I recommended to them. Look, you can keep doing it in person because you're passionate about it, but why don't you take this online? Like a half a day or 3 hours before they get their paycheck, or, offer it, record it, drop it just in time when they need it. And guess what? They adjust. The trainers took me turning because it's live and she gets to talk, but it's done just in time because guess what? Now they don't have that question anymore. And that was their number one question. So my thing is always this. Look, just try it. This is one thing. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, just one thing. If it doesn't work, go back to doing it. Nothing's going to be lost. You've been doing this for 2 decades or whatever, and you have this question, this burning thing that keeps coming up. It's like parking lot safety. Keep telling them to be safe in a parking lot or show them the actual parking lot.
I love that. I love
just like
that.
go, it's authentic learning. And that's the thing. It has to be relevant and authentic.
I love it. I love it. And so I listened to your TED Talk, and we're going to get to talking about that in a little bit. But you bring up emotional resonance, right? And I think that it's really important because like what you're saying is one test is worth 1,000 guesses, right? And I think that emotional resonance, that is really, really, really key there.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people know about learner to content. It's the most common. That's what this is, right? This is learner to
Yes.
content. It's also learner to instructor because we're the experts and people are passively listening. This isn't like there's a live audience and they're asking us questions. Those are the two that most organizations use because that's how they were taught and that's what they understand. And that's okay, right? It's okay. There's actually ways that you can take both of those interaction modes and incorporate learning science, but there's two, and I talk about one of them in my TEDx that are the most powerful for neural interaction and synapse to change lives, and that's learner to learner and learner to self. And the
Mm.
one thing that this industry does not do that is so powerful for all of us is learner to self because we need to ask them what's important to them. We never ask the drivers. We never ask. We never ask. We never go on a call and say, what was the best part of your day? We don't ask. We just talk and we don't listen. And so learner to self and learner to learner are the most powerful interaction mode. So what Luma does is we bring all of the interaction modes together to create these learning communities. And look, it changes lives because when you can bring people together on meaningful, authentic topics, it matters. It really, truly matters.
Yeah. So, Dr. Gina, for someone who says, hey, look, my drivers are so disconnected, they just really, I mean, it's a struggle to get them to absorb content and to really buy into like a training program. What would you say to those carriers out there who've already kind of washed their hands of it? They're going to do what's regulatorily required, but they don't know how to dream again. You always inspire me every time I see you speak, and you're so positive and uplifting. So, what would you say to encourage those folks out there who just really need to try again?
Yeah, so I would say this, the reality is the environment is going to be changing. Right now, I mean, we have a whole new group of individuals we're trying to recruit, right, and bring into the industry. We also have individuals who are an aging workforce that still need to be connected with. This isn't just about delivering content. I would tell those this is about connecting on a human level with each other to help us move forward in a time in our lives it is dark, and this is why we need to focus on bright moments, and I that's what I call them because we all have shadow statements that hold us back. And so this is real. This isn't like this traditional education. It's a human component that we need to help each other move forward.
And I always say in the technology space, the industry is about 20 years behind everything else. And you're bringing that to light today. Even when we come into the learning space, the more that we talk and the more I listen, I see that in that, aspect as well. Dr. Gina, can you touch on that a little bit and on how, what your feelings are on where we're at within the industry?
Yeah, I think the industry is really trying to move forward. I don't think we give the industry a lot of kudos and respect, but I've been connected to so many fleets that do really want to make and drive change in the industry. In fact, we find that not every fleet is a good partner for Luma because we're not a check the box. Like we truly want to drive and change lives. And there are so many incredible fleets out there. Let me give you an example. Ari Garrison, I'm going to give them a shout out. This is their little mascot. I'm going to write an article why mascots matter. Look, we all have we go to sporting events and we love the mascots. In college, we love them. In high school, we all had our mascots. But they have this Terry turtle, and it's like Nugget, our little mascot, and it has a QR code and it goes to our platform for important things. But they give this as a reminder to their drivers and to their fleet to really be connected. And if they need something, to reach out, because I think a lot of times we don't know when people are struggling. And so I think there are, and I've seen organizations that truly want to make a change. And honestly, the fleets that are just, I think, checking a box is because they don't really maybe have the energy. They're just like
Yeah.
tapped out. They don't have, it's not like they don't want to do this. They just don't either want to invest like in the now because they see that maybe this isn't the right time. But I think honestly, they really do want to make a change. This is a heart-filled industry and I love it. And I love the people in it. And I love being connected to everyone and all of you because we do want to make a difference.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with that. I think it's just the lack of energy, right? Um, there are some roles in the industry that are just it's a thankless job, right? And you're going through and I know everyone probably has a to-do list a mile long. And so when it comes to um designing and implementing a new process or a new program, right? That takes a lot of thought, effort, but it takes a lot of energy, what you're talking about here, and the really the forethought. And so one of the things that we love to do at Carrier Code Podcast is have these engaging discussions because a lot of times it is what someone needs to say, hey, you know what? That is on my list, but it's toward the bottom. Maybe I need to rethink it. And so now that we're in Q4, everyone is trying to figure out how do I button up the things on my to-do list? What did I not get done this year? What wasn't a priority? What fires did I have to put out that distracted me from things that matter? Right. And I think that this is a really great time to start thinking ahead to wrap up 2025 in a good way and kind of launch fresh in 2026. Because I mean, it's that time of year. I know I make my list and I check them twice, but training and having, a full program helps you in so many ways. Now, before we wrap up, Dr. Gina, we need to hear about the TEDx talk. We want to also talk about your book. And so, like, let's just talk about the TED talk because I've listened to it. I love it. And I share your
Aw.
dream of wanting to do it, but you did it. And so tell us about the experience.
Aw. So here's the thing, a warrior, William Luss said this last week at the tank event. He said a warrior takes action. And I really resonated with me because this isn't something, it's like getting up. If you want something, if you want to accomplish something, you have to take action. You can't wait for it to happen. And the TEDx, for me, I spent over 2 years trying to get on a TEDx. It's what it doesn't just happen. And you see it and you're like, Gina did that. Well, Gina has been trying to do it for 2 years because I know that the power of presence. I felt it, I've experienced it, and there's a human scientific connection for it. And so I've been wanting to share it. And with my mom passing last November, I had an experience that changed my life in Tampa when I went to the a tank event early in the year. And I just said to myself, look, I'm going to share this story because somebody needs to hear that when you're going through something incredibly hard in your life and nobody sees it, I had to show up 2 days after I found a letter that my mom had written on Easter. I took her to see on Easter and I found the letter on Easter that she wrote when she was 52 to us. She wanted us to find it when she passed away. We actually found it on Easter. And the first line of the letter said, this Easter will be the first time in 7 years we'll all be together. And I mean, that's not
Wow.
by happenstance. And I literally was so broken down and I had to go to this tank event and speak 2 days after, and I didn't think I'd be able to. And I harnessed the power of love and presence in that moment. And I connected with somebody there. It was actually the coffee barista. And him and I had a moment, and I talk about it in the TEDx because I want to share with people that no matter what you're going through in life, no matter what you're grieving, no matter what is in a hurdle in your life, that the power of presence with other people in our own minds can move us forward. And that is the truth. So that's why I did the TEDx. And if you want, you can scan it. Now, here's the thing I'm up against, y'all. Here's the thing I'm up against. There are bots and AI things and people doing fake comments on some of these. And you know what? It's not about the numbers for me. It's about changing one life. And so I love that people want to comment on it because that means one more person is going to see it. And if someone is in a dark space in their life and they don't think that they can move forward, I hope that they listen to my TEDx talk and know those shadow statements are not real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you and I have the pleasure of, I mean, we have lots of overlap in our schedules, Dr. Gina.
We do. We but
But
I'm so glad I get to talk to you because you're beautiful.
oh my
I
gosh,
love
thank you so
it.
much. Thank you so and I am transported back to earlier this spring when you and I were both at in North Carolina for their Women in Trucking event. And you've written a book and it's called Thrive. Again, I'm going to show it here. Okay, by
Aw,
Dr. Gina
thank you.
Anderson. And I mean, it was an electrifying time. The content was so great, but there were a couple of sessions that really stuck out to me. And so, anyway, I just want to say thank you for all that you are to the industry and the ways that you show up and remind people, right, of what connection looks like and what it feels like. I think a lot of times we are very, very distracted, rightfully so. We're there to do a job, but we can't miss the people and the genuine connection and the gift that people are to us. And so I just want you to kind of close us out. Let us know where we can find you. Tell us about your book. And you can show that QR code again, too, because we want people to know how they can connect with you, how they can find you. And of course, whatever strong statements you want to leave us with, you can go for it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me today. I want to leave you with this thought. Microlearning is more than just content. It truly is about connection and, learning with purpose, it transforms us. And so if you want to learn more about Luma Brighter Learning or my content that I give away for free to change lives, you can go to lumabrighterlearning.com. You can go to learningwithgina.com. And I would love, love, love if you would go to my oops, it's upside down, my TEDx talk. You can scan it. Now, you can find this on my website or you can scan it. And what I'd like you to do is like it and leave me a thoughtful comment about what it means to you, because that isn't about me. It's not about the likes. It's truly about connecting with someone who's struggling. So I appreciate that. My book, if you want a book, I'll give it to you for free. I'll buy it. For me, it's not about making money. It's about changing lives. So the book is on Amazon. I wrote it actually while my mom was dying, and it was very impactful for me to share the science of how to move ourselves forward. So thank you for having me. Thank you for highlighting learning. Learning is the seed of life. Like William Luss says, be a warrior and take action, because that will change your life. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you
Thank you.
very, very much for being with us today. There'll be more with Carrier Code Podcast right after the break.
Carrier Code is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL ticket defense for professional drivers. Hey, it's Rocco from Carrier Code. Every professional driver knows how important it is to protect your CDL. A single ticket can put your livelihood at risk, and that's where Driver's Legal Plan comes in. With just a phone call, you can get specialized CDL ticket defense for just $2.98 a week. Don't let a ticket jeopardize your trucking career. Contact Driver's Legal Plan today and let them defend you like they have more than 400,000 other cases. When you need CDL ticket defense, there is only one, Driver's Legal Plan. Call 1-800-580-8789 or visit driverslegalplan.com for your free consultation. Again, that's 1-800-580-8789 or driverslegalplan.com.
Welcome back to Carrier Code Podcast, where today we're talking all about the psychology of training with Dr. Gina Anderson from Luma Brighter Learning.
Dr. Gina, thank you for being on. And everybody, she had some very insightful, impactful information. If you missed any of it, all her links are going to be in the description. Take a look there. Reach out to her. She'd be more than happy to assist you with anything you need. I mean, she made that very clear today to us. So, we want to thank her for that. And with that, Chris, Dr. Gina, she shared a lot of information, a lot of impactful information. How do we unpack all that after all this? I mean, that was intensive.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the things that I've always loved is Dr. Gina's energy when talking about training, right? And I think that carriers, number one, can take that away. Get excited about learning, get excited about training, because guess what? Training isn't just there to meet your regulatory requirements, right? You should make it a part of your company culture. Here we go, talking about culture again, but make it a part of your culture, make it a part of your process so the drivers expect it and it's not a chore. I think some of those really, really practical tips can help make training even more impactful and successful, no matter which providers you use, right? There's lots of choices in the industry. And so, really, the perspective behind or the psychology behind how people learn is really important to talk through because you know your drivers.
And I like that aspect of it. And, one thing that really stuck with me was when Dr. Gina said, take the chance, see if it works for you. And I think that's
Mm.
something that, all the carriers listening and drivers, whoever's listening, take that chance. It may not be a good fit, but until you take that chance, you're not going to know. And as she stated, you can always go back to the way it was done before, but let's take that leap, take that leap of faith and let's see if there's a way together collectively we can make that industry better and really have all that training resonate really deeply with those drivers and all your staff. There's so much training that can be had. And, as we were talking, just to check the box doesn't make sense anymore. So let's make it impactful. Let's make it something that people, look forward to. I enjoy school. I enjoy learning. I know there's others out there. So let's make it, let's bring that joy to others. That's what I took from this.
I agree. Now, Rocco, you know me, and I'm such an unserious person, okay? And so, like, even as you were talking, I started thinking about times when I've been somewhere to learn something, and it didn't get me, right? Where I was either very distracted or something funny happened and I could not recover, right? But I think one of the things that makes a really, really great training that personally resonates with me, it is having an engaging instructor or medium that I'm listening to, right? And so everyone learns differently. But I mean, if you had someone who was dry and really wasn't excited about it and had to, like that would totally send me the other direction. My mind would be wandering. And what Dr. Gina told us is that guess what? People's minds are already wandering, right? So do yourself a favor and reinvent, your training process. If you haven't gone through your training process, I think people should go through their own process. What do you think, Rocco?
Oh, 100%. We need to look to connect. And
Mhm.
everything that, we've been talking about this past, half an hour or so, it's about connecting. So if we can connect with whomever, is either teaching or learning, that's what's going to make the difference and how you absorb it. Everybody learns differently, but I believe, and again, I'm no doctor by any means, but I believe if there's a connection, no matter how you're learning, it's going to make that learning at least a little bit easier and you're going to retain more. Again, that's just my 2 cents. That connection is a huge part of learning and what we do here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, we can agree on that, Rocco. That connection is the
Yep.
key for sure. All right. Carrier Code is sponsored by Drivers Legal Plan, CDL Ticket Defense for Professional Drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss an episode. You can visit us anytime at carriercodepodcast.com. You'll also find us on all the social channels at Carrier Code Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next week, I'm Christy.
And I'm Rocco.
And this is Carrier Code.